The Lobito Corridor runs through parts of Angola, the DRC, and Zambia. It is being developed to supply African minerals to Western markets for use in the high-tech industry. RT's Nolubuyo Kunga has the story.
Days of intense violence involving mortars, gunfire, bodies on the street, and the mass displacement of people, combined with a lack of protection for citizens, has plunged the DRC into a state of chronic insecurity. And on top of that, Western embassies have found themselves surrounded by angry crowds chanting, "Death to imperialists." Underneath the killing fields, the violence and destruction lies much sought-after minerals that have been the bane of Africa's second largest country. Getting those minerals out of Congo or even out of Africa into Western markets more easily. The United States and the European Union aim to revive an old colonial route, the Lobito Corridor.
It's a very important project. It has a very important economic significance for African countries, but also is regarded by many analysts as the US and the West pretty much trying to counter China's influence on the extraction of minerals from Africa, and therefore has a global geopolitical significance.
Now, this answers the question of why Joe Biden only managed to make one single trip to the African continent during his presidency, and particularly to Angola. It was for this project, a stitching together of a patchwork of what was colonial rail infrastructure, with the backbone of it being the Benguela rail line, which was also built in colonial times in Angola, but left to degrade over several decades. It's now been connected to a rail corridor and a dry port in the DRC and extended out into Zambia. All these countries have large deposits of critical resources that the United States and the EU are leaning on quite heavily. Copper, cobalt, lithium, you name it, all the materials which are so needed in the West. Strategic technologies, transportation, and energy systems, all of them need these critical minerals. And in the dying days of his presidency, Joe Biden vowed that the corridor will become a real game changer.
It's a project that's about far from just laying tracks. It's about creating jobs, increasing trade, strengthening supply chains, boosting connectivity, laying foundations that will strengthen commerce and food security for people across multiple countries. This is a game-changing regional investment.
Game changer for who? That is the question, because the United Nations issued a report last year which claims this infrastructure could undermine the sustainable development goals of Africa, fueling health and security crises on the continent.
The operation of the Lobito Corridor as an export route can trigger disputes over exploitation and allocation of these resources among communities. Such conflicts can hinder project implementation and initiate long-term resentment between groups. The influx of workers along the corridor is more likely to increase the spread of communicable diseases and sexually transmitted infections.
Blind to these facts, the US is more focused on extracting and exporting raw materials.
Imagine how transformative this will be for technology, clean energy, for farming, for food security as a whole. It's faster, it's cleaner, it's cheaper, and most importantly, I think, is just plain common sense.
Both Africa and the US, Biden implied, would reap the benefits of such a coalition. Of course, that's precisely the kind of rhetoric we can expect when Western interests are intent on acquiring the resources of the global South. However, the DRC's leader agreed with the US appetite.
This is a project that is full of hope for our countries and our region. The corridor, it is way more than just a transportation axis. It is a unique opportunity for regional integration, economic transformation, and to improve the living conditions of our fellow citizens. It will play an important role in regional integration and continental integration.
For some, The Lobito Corridor project seems more like a form of neocolonialism, because how else do you explain the extraction of raw materials from an African country like the DRC with minimal benefit to local population? Another question on everyone's minds: will the US supported project be a hub for regional trade or a new gateway to plunder Congo's natural resources even more?
Former ECOWAS diplomat Haruna Warkani says Washington has failed to achieve its own goals in the DRC.
Biden never took Africa serious throughout his tenure, but for America's interest, I think that will fail. This project is definitely bound to fail because DRC might not witness peace for some time to come because the interests are divergent, are very complex, and intertwined with others. The companies that are involved in the exploitation of minerals in that region of Africa are definitely even going to compete among themselves. The neighboring countries have their very divergent interests in the whole of this. Rwanda is looking for defense, peace, and tranquility for itself. You have South Sudan not very far from there. So all this, if you put them together, you will see that they will impact negatively on such a project. And I do not believe also that Americans have capacity to execute this job. You will see that it is going to take much more years for this to be done. And at what cost? And for who? Who is paying for the cost of this infrastructure?
Right, let's cross live now to Roland Lumumba, the son of Patrice Lumumba, the first ever Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Sir, an honor. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Honestly, we're so glad that you could. A lot going on in the DRC, and we heard that the DRC's president says the National Army will retake control over the area seized by the militants. So, in your opinion, how feasible is that, and how long could that take?
It depends how it will be, because this war, it's that we have it, the Congo have it against Rwanda through the M23. For us, it's an economic war. It's not a war that we have problem with just Rwandese. And how long I don't know how long it will take, but for our country, it's a sovereignty problem. So we will fight with all our power to get our land back.
Yeah, indeed, sir. Mr. Lumumba, you know, we heard a press statement from the representatives of the M23 militant group. They said that their presence in the DRC city of Goma is a response to requests from the local population. What do you make of that statement?
I didn't understand well what you said.
Yeah, the militant group, the M23 group, they said that they were in the eastern part of the DRC because it was a request from the people that live there.
No, it's not true what they say about that, because all the people in Congo we are against, and especially the people in that area are against to be led by the Rwandese, because the M23 is not a Congolese movement. There are Congolese involved on it, but all of us, even us in Kinshasa, everywhere in Congo, it's not a problem between Congolese. It's a problem between exploitation of this land by foreigner. By Occidental country, they send Rwandese to rob our goods for them.
Actually, you make an interesting
So,
point. Sorry, please continue.
so it can be possible that the Congolese of Kivu, they ask other people to to come to make them as slaves or thing like that, because the problem is not Congolese problem.
Indeed, I was going to ask you about that because the Congolese region was historically colonized by Belgium. So, to what extent could that dark period have led to what is happening now?
What?
So I was saying that in the part, I mean, the Congolese region was historically colonized by Belgium. To what extent could that dark period have led to what is happening now? I think we've lost, sadly, Roland Lumumba. Yeah, I believe so. Oh, we have you back. Can you hear me?
I don't hear you well. The connection is a little bit bad.
It was. So you and I were talking briefly about how foreign powers were more interested in the DRC, and perhaps that was creating some form of problem now that we're witnessing. Could you elaborate on that for us, please?
The sound is very bad, but what I understand a little bit, the Rwandese make the dirty job for the multinational that are interested about DRC, about the wealth, about the coltan, diamond, and other things, to get it in free through Rwandese, and to say that we have a civil problem or civil war between Congolese. It's not true. And a lot of this country, they know that all the minerals that they take from Rwanda, Rwanda doesn't have it. So from where Rwanda get it is from DRC. And they let Rwanda do such things, and in the same time, they tell African country to take care about what happened between Russia and Ukraine, and what's the difference between what happened in Ukraine and what happened now in DRC. So it's not fair, that affair.
Indeed, sir. I was wondering, you mentioned there a little bit that Rwanda made some deals with the EU regarding these precious metals and minerals. Does the DRC have any proof that Rwanda stole those minerals?
Yes, we have a lot of proof. Even the United Nations have make a commission, and they have said that the expert of United Nations, it's not only Congolese people that say that. And even the proof that all of us, we know what are the minerals are in Rwanda, and all the mineral that Rwandese became the leader of trading on it, they don't have it on their land. How it comes if they are not stealing this from DRC?
I want to get your opinion. The UN previously tried to broker a peace deal to end the fighting between the DRC and the M23 over a decade ago. Why did the international community withdraw its support for the peace effort?
It's like always. It's a matter of interest because this mineral coltan and for make battery and all these goods, this United Nations and European, they close their eyes because in their countries, their company are the one who was interested about this material to take it in for free or cheaply through Rwanda. I think that's the reason that they close the eyes about the problem in DRC. But we have to solve it because what happened.
Indeed. So, if I may get your opinion also on the recent UN Security Council meeting, they convened, they talked about what was going on. My first question to you, sir, the first part of the question is, what do you make or what do you think of the UN Security Council? Are they a valid group? Do they take action?
They don't take good action. When it becomes very big, they take just decisions that they won't respect. That's all. It's like what happened in Gaza or a lot of these kind of things. A lot of thousands of people have been killed in DRC. They are doing nothing. And when it's become very big, they make a resolution that they know that they won't respect it. So I don't believe what's do this United Nations. We got problem with that organization since our independence till now.
I understand, sir. I appreciate you for joining us here today on RT. Roland Lumumba, the son of Patrice Lumumba, the first ever Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic. A pleasure, sir, and an honor. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, in December, he led the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad in Damascus. Now, just a month later, Mohammed al-Jalani, rebranded as Ahmed al-Sharaa after a Western-backed transformation, takes charge as Syria's interim leader. Washington, it seems, has conveniently forgotten about the $10 million bounty on his head.
Victory itself is a duty, for the task of the victors is heavy and their responsibility is great. The fallen regime has left deep wounds, social, economic, political, and otherwise, and healing them requires great wisdom, relentless work, and doubled efforts. Delusional is the one who thinks that the time of struggle has passed and that ease has arrived.
The new Syrian leadership has dissolved the country's parliament as well as security services and military institutions, and also it has suspended the constitution. The interim government has pinned all the blame for the poor state of the national economy on the previous administration of deposed President Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, Syria's new foreign ministry has said it was able to negotiate an easing of Western sanctions on the country with the US and the EU. Also, a Russian delegation has met with the new government in Damascus and said Moscow intends to preserve unity between their countries.
Our relations are of a strategic nature. We provide unwavering support for the unity, territorial integrity, and sovereignty of the Syrian Arab Republic. This is the most important aspect of our relationship. Despite recent events in Syria, including the change in leadership, our principled approach remains unchanged, because in our view, only national unity is the key to preserving the sovereignty and unity of the Syrian Arab Republic. We discussed the issues of our trade and economic relations, as well as the important infrastructure projects We would like to express our gratitude for the fact that our citizens and facilities were not harmed during these recent events.
There we heard from a local journalist in Damascus. He said the so-called victory speech by Syria's interim leader is unlikely to be accepted by many people across the country.
They said yesterday that Mr. Ahmad Shara will deliver a speech to the Syrian people, but instead they held a closed meeting with the factions affiliated with HTS, which resulted in his